All right, guys, I know for this crowd, I don't need to introduce Tom, but for folks that are on YouTube, Tom Dempsey is he and Dino and Dwight are the Gulf Coast Fly Fishing School. Tom is a Master Certified Casting Instructor. He's an excellent angler. He's been fishing down here since Mobile Bay was first formed by glacial melt. Exactly right. But in all honesty, Tom is 100% one of the pioneers of fly fishing in the Mobile area. No doubt, 100%. And he is also one of the most giving folks as far as his time and experience. And at every event that we've ever done at the store, Tom has always taken the time to come be a part of it, to share that knowledge with everybody else in all of his local clubs as well. Don't tell him I said any of this, but I think very highly of him. But that being said, I'm going to let Tom go through it. Tom's going to talk to us today about leaders and the importance of it, how to set them up, how to build them. And this is a talk that I heard him make about 10, 12 years ago. And it made a big difference in how I set up to do my fishing every time I get ready to go. And I know you guys will get a really big kick out of this and learn a lot. So, Tom?
Okay. My old professor in medical school said the mind can't absorb what the ass can't endure. So I'm not going to keep you that long. But they used to publish a series of books like Cooking for Dummies and all this sort of stuff. This is Leaders for Dummies, okay? Because there's so much material out there that it becomes voluminous and you can't absorb it all. For example, Scientific Angler makes 1,200 different types of fly lines. They all do the same thing. There's 500 different models of cars. They all do the same thing. But understanding a little bit about leaders will help you. And so I'm going to go through some of this stuff kind of fast. The whole purpose for the leaders is to dissipate energy. And that in 5th grade physics that you thought you would never use again, it all comes back. Because fly casting is nothing but physics. That's all it is. And if we dissipate the energy appropriately, then we deliver the fly to the target. And you notice I didn't say fish, because oftentimes we're not casting for a fish, we're casting for a location. So everybody says, how long should your leader be? This is just a kind of a very simple primer for it. When I was taking my certification exam, they said, what kind of leader you use for redfish? I said, you want the book answer or you want my answer? And so a lot of this is what we call your style. The style is how you drove over here today to get to Peter's place. You may have gone through Birmingham and got here. The substance is the fact that you're here. We're talking about substance when we're talking about leaders. Now, you always hear about the X system, 3X, 4X, 5X. Where did it come from? Does anybody know where it came from? It came from the old days of silkworms. Silkworms excrete the silk, and it comes out in a certain diameter. And they pushed it through dyes, and the number of times they pushed it through dyes is what they assigned a number to. If it went through 3 times, it was 3X, 4X, 5X, and that all came from the silkworm days. There's the materials that we used, of course, before 1960, everything was silk, horsehair, all that sort of stuff. In 1960, what happened? Nylon came out. So people started using nylon. They thought nylon was great, so let's do something else. So they tried Kevlar, then they tried braided Dacron and things like that. Today, 99% of our leaders are made with nylon. And people think nylon and mono are 2 different things. They're not. When you say, what do you fish with? They say mono. No, you fish with no, I fish with mono. It's mono because it's one strand. So it's nylon. It's all nylon. And of course the other material is fluorocarbon. I think fluorocarbon has waned a lot in the eyes of most fly fishermen for a number of reasons. If you look at nylon, it's cheap, it's easy to get, it's easy to tie, it's predictable. Fluorocarbon is a lot more expensive, and it probably makes a difference, as I say, probably makes a difference when you're fishing really, really, really small tippet, like 6X and 7X tippet. But otherwise, it makes no difference. The specific gravity of nylon is 1.2. Specific gravity of fluorocarbon is 1.8. And so, well, it sinks a lot faster. That's not statistically different. 1.2 and 1.8. So yeah, it leaks a little bit faster. And they say, well, fluorocarbon is invisible. No, it's not. If you take anything below a foot or so in the water, it all turns black or disappears anyway. So that's kind of a misnomer. So people are rethinking fluorocarbon. If you like fluorocarbon, fine. I don't ever use it because I've never seen an advantage with it. And I go out west and fish with it. And I can't see somebody down here catching tons of fish on fluorocarbon, and I'm not catching them. But that's a personal preference. If you like fluorocarbon, fine, use it. It's harder to tie, it's more expensive, and it's not as forgiving. It doesn't stretch as much. The nylon stretches anywhere from 10 to 30% when you pull on it. That's why you can land a 130-pound tarpon on 20-pound test with the bend of the rod. That's why all that stuff works. Making your leaders, okay? You can buy them or you can make them. And a lot of it, again, is your preference. I make most of my leaders because my leader system is kind of screwy. And for example, when we were fishing Biloxi Marsh yesterday, there was a guy with me. And I said, what pound test? He hooked a big black drum. I said, what pound test you got on it? He said, 15. I said, we're going to be here forever. I fish with heavy leaders, generally, especially saltwater fish. They're not leader shy. You can hit them in the head, you hit them in the face, whatever. I've had them run into my boat. I had one redfish run into my trolling motor and bent the shaft on it. You know, so they're really not leader shy. Most saltwater fish don't like to be lined, but if you throw it over their back, let them swim out from under. Don't strip it across their back. But they see grass and stuff all the time. So this misnomer about, oh, you know, that spooks them. No, that doesn't spook them. What spooks fish is ospreys coming over the top of them to get them. I play a radio on my boat. And the fish like it, probably. I have not had any of them complain, but making noise on your boat, they hear motors every day. And you have the guy that says, you gotta be quiet on the boat. Don't walk around, you'll make noise. Again, that's one of my personal preferences after doing this for about 35 years. It doesn't make squat difference. Okay, all right, so making your leaders. The Ritz formula, you know where the Ritz formula came from? You know who Charlie Ritz was? You ever heard of the hotel chain, Ritz-Carlton? That's where it came from. He was a fly fisherman. And he's come out with this very simple formula that you can see that 60% of your leader goes into the butt section, 20% in the midsection, and 20% in the distal section. And if you look at the scientific formula for making leaders, it should be a step down of about 2/3 each time. In other words, my butt section should be about 2/3 the diameter of my fly line. And another thing that people don't realize is look at the stiffness of your leader material versus your fly line. And if you hold them up like this and bend them together where they come together, where the junction is, if one of them is doing this or doing that, and then they don't form a nice dorm, you're probably fishing with something that's not very balanced. And there are different types of nylon that are out there. Most of them are, you can buy these big spools at Academy or whatever, and you have enough leader material for 100 years. But there's one that's particularly stiff called Mason Hard. And it's got a tremendous amount of memory to it, so you've got to keep it straight. If you put it on your reel, you're going to bring a slinky out every time you cast it. But it's good for a butt section because it's very stiff, and if you're fishing with these short, short leaders that turn over these big flies, something like that works pretty good. So that's just a little deal. But the rich formula, the 60-20-20 works pretty good. For our certification examinations, we have to use a 7.5 foot leader. So we go through leaders like water. So an easy way to remember how to do it is 54-18-18. That'll give you a 7.5 foot leader. Another way that you ought to look at your leaders, take your fly rod, measure it if you want a 7.5 foot leader. Put a piece of tape on your fly rod and you'll know it's right at the same time. I know if I take a piece of leader material and I put it here and I do this, and then I go from here to here, that's 7.5 feet. I know that exactly because I've done it 10,000 times. So having a feel for what your length is and that sort of thing, you can work quickly with it. All right, knots. Get Grog Knot app on your phone. Grog Knot, G-R-O-G. Grog Knot app, I think it's a free app, and it will tell you how to tie every knot in the whole world, okay? I don't care what knot you tie as long as you tie it well. And there are a few basic knots that everybody should learn. And the one I use for like tying my tippet onto my fly doesn't even have a name on it. I learned it in Alaska about 25 years ago when the drug companies could take you on freebie trips, which they can't anymore. The federal government won't do that. But whatever you learn how to do it well. One common misconception when you tie these knots, people lick them and all that sort of stuff. That does no good. They say, well, it cools it down when you pull it together and let you cinch it. First, you don't generate that much heat because the knot is called a jam knot that you come together with. Secondly, the protein in your saliva actually makes it loose. So licking the knot, if you like to lick knots, that's fine. But if you're gonna lick knots, especially if you're fishing in these streams around here, take some Cipro every day so you don't get the runs, okay? I was talking to a guy the other day with the local brokers. He said, everybody got sick down there. I said, what the hell? Did y'all take Cipro with you? No. I said, then you deserve to get sick. You can get some Cipro from your GP and take one a day when you go out fishing. All these streams around here have got bacteria in them that'll give you the runs, you know? And you don't want to do that. That's kind of dumb. It's like, I'm not going to put on sunscreen, but I'm going to go out and dig fish all day. Duh. You know?
That's next year's t-shirt.
Yeah.
You got the runs? Yeah. Did you take Cipro? No. You deserve it.
Not liquor. You're not liquor.
Not liquors.
We were in the Amazon about 3 years ago fishing, and this lady from Hawaii was up, and she liked to do the inter-island racing, you know, with the catamarans. And she didn't want to fish, so they found her a dugout. She was paddling up down the river, but she was a strict vegan. Okay, so she goes on the nature walk one day and comes back with a big basket full of all kinds of green stuff. She said, "This is my supper tonight." They said, "Well, you need to wash it down with some Clorox." She said, "I don't put anything far in my body." The next day, she's green. And I said, "I've got some Cipro." She said, "I don't put anything far in my body." I said, "Baby, you got something in your body now that's green." And she was still lying on the floor in the airport when we left that day. So, you know, be smart to do things, okay? So, leader construction, everybody knows how to tie a blood knot. And you know that the little wings come out at each side when you tie a blood knot. If they come out the same side, that's called a barrel knot. Is there any difference in the strength? No. All right. Are you going to tie blood knots on the water? Hell no. It's too much trouble. You're going to tie a double or triple surgeon's knot. And tying a double or triple surgeon's knot, look at your app. They're not all tied the same, because if you tied a double surgeon's or triple surgeon's incorrectly, it comes down and then it's got a little V in it. It comes off to the side. It probably makes no difference, but aesthetically, it's not good. So I tie double or triple surgeon's knots when I'm out fishing. I don't want to mess around with them. You know, all these other types of knots, like unis and all that sort of stuff. If you fish in fluoro, there's a specific knot called a seaguar. A seaguar makes fluoro that you can tie, and that's not supposed to loosen. That's even more complicated. So, you know, don't make your life complicated. So you're out fishing there, nowadays, most of your fishing lines have a loop at the end of them, so you'd be an idiot and still put a leader on it, because most of the leaders have loops on them too. But if you don't, learn how to tie a triple nail knot. And put some ply bond on it, and then you got a loop on the end of your fly line. And learn how to tie a perfection loop, because if you break it, what are you gonna do out there? If you don't know how to tie it back on.
Tom, triple nail knot for all species of fish?
I put a triple nail knot on the end of my fly line, all my fly lines, because I don't want them to break, and I put ply bond over there, and they don't come apart. These little slip-on sleeves that you put on that have a ready-made loop, that sounds good until you strip the coating off your line when you catch a fish. So I've seen that happen, and they sell a lot of them, but I wouldn't advise using them unless you want to catch pinfish. If you're going to go out and catch a 40-pound, Jack Val or something like that, they're going to laugh at you all the way to the shore, because they're going to slip it right off. The core comes right off the coating comes right off the cord. So learn how to tie an Albright. It's easy to do. Albright, you can whip that leader right back on the end of your line easily. That's the easiest one. If you don't know how to tie that, just tie a knot on it. Just got a square knot on it. Fish doesn't know. You're gonna eat different. Okay? Down at the bottom there are actually 4 rules that we call the rule of 4. So if you kind of want to figure out, what tipping size you use from the size worm you got on the end of it, just look at it and see. Like a number 12 woolly boater, 12 divided by 3 or 4 gives you 4/8 tip. And that kind of balances you out. You don't have to direct guess at it. A lot of people just put it in their phone. If you want to know the strength of it, it's called the rule of 9. And if you want to know the size, I had a friend who used to carry a caliper with him all the time. He would measure it. I said, that's too angry for me. I can't do that. I'm not going to carry a caliper with me. But it's just a quick reference, and it's nothing written in stone, because you'll develop your own style of leader. Okay? One of the things you can do at home is you can get you some contractor's cord in different colors from Lowe's or whatever, and you can practice tying your knot so you can actually see them before you start tying it with your nylon, which you can't see. Then you have to go to the Dollar Tree and get these things. Right? But when we teach knot tying classes, we use things like this. You can see the contrast here, so that when you tie the knot, you actually see it. And when you do your app with draw knots, it gives you a step-by-step. It tells you how to tie every one of these.
Show them how easy the Albright is, Tom, because that saved me deep offshore when my line got caught up in the prop, got sucked in.
Well, an Albright knot is, you make a loop like this, okay? This is your business end going to your fly line, okay? This is what I want to tie. This is my leader. It is so easy. You go through it, and you go around it. 1, 2, 3, and some people will go straight back down through the hole here, like that, okay? And then you pull it. That's all.
Yeah.
You see how quick that is.
The harder it pulls, the tighter it gets.
The way that-
The Albright's one of the knots, the harder you pull, the tighter the knot gets.
That's right, it's called, there are 2 types of knots, and the jam knot is one, where you jam it down. That's a jam knot, okay? Albright knots are about 90% strength. They're no real 100% knots. It doesn't happen, because once you make a knot and you form any type of connection that's not straight on, you weaken it. So a lot of this stuff, when you throw lots of turns in it, and one of my favorite things is when you're tying on, everybody knows how to tie an improved clinch knot, where you go around 5 times, go back through, back through. They don't realize that's about a 75% knot. That is not a 100% knot. So there are a lot of other knots that are stronger than that are easier to tie. And you'll see that on your grog knot stuff. Practice it. Get you some big hooks with big eyes in them, cut the point off of them, and practice time at home so that you can do them. And you should be able to do them with not even looking at them. You should be able to do them at night. When I fish at night around the lights, that's why I use the knots I do, because I can time and not even have to look at them. I can feel it. And that's not anything great or anything, it's just I'm doing it all the time. So that's a quick primer on leaders. Yes, sir.
Chris, do you ever use like a double leader? Like a twist leader?
There are two types of leaders. They're woven leaders and furrow leaders. Okay, the problem with those types of leaders, they're made out of woven dacron. People like them because they say they make a real smooth presentation. And one was called a George Harvey leader, and it has about 8 parts to it. Anything that's got 8 parts to it, I don't want to be a part of that. Okay, but George Harvey came up with that, and it's to deliver these flies in the easiest, most stealth way. I'm not so sure I believe that. These furrow leaders and these woven leaders tend to pick up dirt, and they're expensive. And if you like to time yourself, more power to you. Time. One of my students right now is a lawyer in Pascagoula who wants to get his certification. He shows up at the first lesson with a furrow leader. It wouldn't straighten out. And I said, come on. So anyway, you can tie your whole bag of leaders, put them in Ziploc bags, label them 40, 30, 40, 30, 20, that sort of thing.
That's what I want.
And but it just depends on what you want to do. I tend to fish with really heavy leaders because I don't want to lose a fish. Okay, so the other day when we fish in the marsh, I was fishing with straight 40 pound, 4 feet of 40 pound. And when I took my certification exam, I said, "You want my answer, or you want the book answer?" They said, "Well, you can't turn a fly over with 40 pound." I said, "The hell you can. You want to see it?" I said, "You can turn a squirrel over with it." I said, "That's what we're casting on the Gulf Coast." I said, "You guys fishing out west, you throwing these little wiener flies like that." I said, "We throwing the whole raccoon." And
If y'all ever get the chance to fish with Tom, do it. Do it.
I have sort of.
I've had so much fun with him over the years.
I get these people from up north that come down. They've never seen a redfish like that. And I said, we use these for live bait. This is what we bring in. These are live bait. We throw those back. But my contention is, people that learn to fish on the Gulf Coast, fish in the wind, fish with the environment, fishing on a boat that's going up and down, fishing a rod and fish is running back, that's less captures. You don't have to do anything out west except, when the bobber goes on, just lift your rods. And that's what they do out there. They nymph fish all the time because it's easy. They don't dry fly fish. You go out there and you hire a guy, he's not going to dry fly fish with you. It's too much trouble. He's going to nymph fish with you. Down here, you got to know what you're doing. And I've taken people out before who had all these accolades and all these, I'm a master caster, blaster, whatever you got, they couldn't get, because they didn't know how to feed fish. But you fish down here and you go back out west and they'll say, "My gosh, you're really casting in the wind." And I said, "That's all we do down here. We cast in the wind every day." And I'm going to just lead right into what I think is the most important cast that you can do down here is what's called a saltwater quick cast. A saltwater quick cast is exactly what it says, because most of the time when you're fishing, especially when you're fishing with a guy down here, you're going to be fishing off the front of the boat. And when you're fishing off the front of the boat, you've got to be aware of several things, okay? And the saltwater quick cast has really 3 components to it. It's exactly what it says. It's a quick cast on salt water. But you can use it on fresh water, you can use it for surf fishing, whatever. All right. When you do your saltwater quick cast, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to establish direction with your guy up here. How many times have you had guys say, "The fish is 11:30"? Don't tell me that. Say straight ahead, behind you, right, 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock, left 9 o'clock. establish direction. Everybody knows what straight ahead is. Nobody knows where, oh, there's a fish at 115. Come on, don't do that to me. Point your rod. Which way is the fish? This way, here. All right, establish direction with your guide. The next thing is establish distance. I may cast out 40 feet and he says that's 30. Get that down before you start fishing, because I've been down in the Bahamas before and he says, "Mon, 30 feet. You throw it out there 60 feet. Mon, 30 feet. I said, closer or further away? He says, further. I'm going. So establish directions and establish distance. Right. You're on the front of the boat. So the three things that a saltwater quick cast has to satisfy is, one, you gotta be quick. Okay, get it to it. Number two, don't take your eye off the fish. When he says fish straight ahead, you go, what? You turn around, you can't see the fish there. You lost it. Don't look back at him. Keep your eye on it. The third thing is line management. You don't want to be stomping all over. Use a line tamer sort of behind you. If you got a buddy, let him be your gilly. You know what a gilly is, don't you? When you fish up in Quebec, two-handed cast with Atlantic salmon, you always fish with a guide and a gilly. And the gilly is another guy that sits in the boat, and the only thing his job is to manage your line so you don't step on it. The first time I fished out there, I said, "What's this guy doing?" He said, "He's your gilly." I said, "I don't know, you're gonna smile at me when you say that?" I said, "That sounds a little bit suspect." But anyway, all right, so you're on the front of the boat. You cast it out 50 feet or whatever, and everybody agrees with it. Then bring your rod up to this position, because when you cast, you want your rod tip to follow a straight line path, don't you? What does a straight line path do? It just tight loop, doesn't it? Okay, a tight loop is like a sharp arrow. It penetrates resistance. What are we penetrating? Resistance. What's the resistance? The wind. Okay. I want to start up here, and I want to strip in until I have about 2.5 times the length of my rod hanging out of the end of it. And this is about 2.5 times. All right, when I'm up on the front of the boat, I'm standing on a platform. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hold it like this, and then I'm gonna grab my line like this, and I'm gonna strip it through my hand. Because I'm not gonna drag this fly in the water, because it's gonna get all kinds of crap on it if I grab it. Now I've got my fly here. Hook up so I don't get hooked. Now I'm gonna hand it under and grab it with this hand. You see now nothing crosses over. I'm in the perfect casting position. He says fish at 12 o'clock. The only thing I have to do now is drop it, go back, and go forward. Just like I'll pick up and lay down cast. That's a saltwater quick cast. So you're in this position.
The cast has morphed over the years.
Do what now?
The cast has morphed over the years.
It has more. But, and that, you can put a haul in it if you want to, but you've gotten it out fast. So you're gonna strip it up again until you get your fly in your left hand, if you're right-handed. And you all ought to be practicing with your left hand if you're right-handed, and right-handed if you're left-handed. Then you're gonna hand it under, getting it under the line, and I'm gonna grab it like this with my fingers. You see, there's nothing that crosses now. I'm up in the ready position, so the only thing I have to do is pull it back. I don't have to pick it up now, I'm already here. So, 1, 2, and it's out. And you can get 50 feet of line out easy like that. It's something you ought to practice at home a little bit, because once you get on the front of that boat, one of the things that the guides, they call me and they say, "I want you to give some lessons to this guy before I take him out fishing," because they don't want to be frustrated by putting people on fishing they can't get to them, and they can't cast to them. So practice it a little bit at home. But remember, keeping your rod up so that you only have to drag it back, holding it in your hand and dropping it as soon as you go back. That's called a saltwater quick cast. If you need a primer on it, look on YouTube. It's described on there. It's one of the casts that we have to do for certification. It's saltwater quick cast. All right, anybody got any questions? Good.
Good, that was quick.
Well, guys, thank y'all so much. And again, God bless you.